Welcome. You are officially inside This is the Sense Circle Back to Business virtual conference, listening to our Masterclass series. Today we have the wonderful Marcyline Bailey, and she is going to talk to you about how to break away from the vortex of crazy, how to tap into simple relaxation methods and stress relief techniques for those hardworking professionals, career professionals, and entrepreneurs out there looking to be happy. So thank you so much, Marcyline, for participating and sharing your amazingness with the ladies today. There's so much I can say about you, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the ladies and get started.
Hi. Thanks, LaShanda. I'm excited to be here. I'm Marcyline Bailey. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I also have the website happyhalfhour.club, and you can find that at www.happyhalfhour.club. And our purpose is to provide stress relief and stress management tips, as LaShanda said, for hardworking professionals who want to be happy. And today we're going to talk about the vortex of crazy. Now, the vortex of crazy is that whirlwind of life stuff that swirls around us every day, and it holds the people, the places, and the things that we're concerned about. It also includes our needs, the needs of those that we love, our wants, as well as the wants of those we love. So the question today is, how do we break away from the stress that's inside the vortex if the vortex contains all of those things that are important to us? We're going to lay the groundwork for understanding how the stress response works, and then we're going to tap into simple relaxation methods that will help you to ease the overwhelming stress that you feel. We'll also get to practice some of those stress-relieving techniques, and we're going to do that right now. The first thing that I'd like for you to do is to sit up in a chair, preferably a straight back chair, and allow your feet to touch the floor. Just allow your feet to rest on the bottom of your feet to rest on the floor. Feel the floor. Feel the firmness of the floor. We want you to understand that the floor will hold you and support you. Then bring your awareness and your attention to your buttocks and to your thighs. And just feel the sensation of your buttocks and thighs as they press into your chair. And you don't have to hold your body in a rigid manner or in a stiff manner. You just want to sit still and allow your arms and your legs to fall naturally. And you'll probably notice that as you're sitting still, that there's a quietness that surrounds you. We use this technique in mindfulness, and we use it to ground you in your current environment, as well as to allow you space to just notice. Notice your body sensations. You might feel your heartbeat. You might feel the coolness of the air on your skin. It also allows you to listen to sounds. So just take a moment as your feet are firmly planted on the floor and as your bottom is firmly planted in the chair, and recognize that the floor and the chair are there to support you and to ground you. Okay, so let's get started. And we're going to get started by playing a little game of Have You Ever? I'm going to ask you 7 yes or no questions, and you just need to answer it quickly. You don't have to stew over the question, but there's yes or no. 7 questions. So I'm going to begin with number 1. Have you ever felt chronically tired or sleepy while working? Number 2, have you ever repeatedly taken off work because you needed a mental health day? Number 3, have you ever consistently put off or avoided work tasks because you didn't have the ability, energy, or desire to complete the task? Number 4, have you ever constantly made unintentional work mistakes, produced poor quality work, or needed extended time to complete a task at work? Number 5, have you ever experienced persistent burnout, anger, resentment, or low morale? And are your work-related relationships strained? Number 6, have you ever experienced chronic colds, grinding teeth, or chest tightness? And number 7, have you ever felt ongoing short-temperedness, depression, or anxiety? If you've answered yes to more than one of these questions, then chances are you're overwhelmed by stress and you're in the center of the vortex of crazy. Now, I have a detailed stress assessment on my website, and I'm going to ask you to go to that site and do that detailed stress assessment. You'll also get an outcome of results telling you where your level of stress is. And you will find that at www.symptomschecklist.happyhalfhour.club. So we're going to do another activity. And this activity is similar to the one we started with. So again, I'm going to ask you to sit in your chair, straight up, very natural, not stiff or rigid. Allow your feet to touch the floor. And as your feet touch the floor, allow your arms and your hands to fall naturally in your lap or at your side. And just breathe naturally for a moment. Notice the air as it flows into your nostrils and as it exits your nostrils. As it goes into your nostrils, it's probably cool, and as it exits, it's probably warm. Continue to breathe naturally, and if you like, you can close your eyes. We're just going to sit here for a moment, just noticing the breath. Now I would like you to take in a deep breath through your nose. Notice the air as it goes into your nostrils, into your sinus cavity, to the back of your throat, down the windpipe, into your lungs. Notice how your lungs fill. Hold the air for one moment. And now release the air and exhale through your mouth, allowing your shoulders and your upper back to soften. Take in another deep breath through your nose. And once again, notice the flow of the air as it goes into your nostrils, into your nasal cavity, to the back of your throat, down your windpipe, into your lungs, filling your lungs to capacity. And you may notice that your stomach pushes out. That's okay. It's just demonstrating that your lungs are full with that fresh, clean air. As you hold it for 1 second, begin to push the air out through your mouth, pushing your belly button to your backbone. And we're going to take in one more deep breath through your nostrils, feeling the cool air as it flows in to the back of your throat, down your windpipe, into your lungs, filling your lungs, noticing your stomach pushing out. And now allow the air to escape by pressing your belly button towards your backbone and allow the air to flow out of your mouth, relaxing your shoulders, your neck, and your upper back. And you can return your breathing back to its natural state, breathing in and out, just naturally, allowing the tension to flow out with every exhale. And then when you're ready, if you've closed your eyes, you may open them and return your awareness back to the present. Breathing is one of the most effective and quickest ways to release tension and to bring your stress level down. This activity is an activity that you can do anywhere. You can do it in the grocery line. You could do it at your desk. You can do it while you're on the phone. So let's get into the meat of our session today. There are two things that I want you to take away today. The first one is that I want you to understand that there's a difference between good stress and bad stress. And when we talk about being stressed, oh my God, I'm just so stressed. Girl, I'm so stressed out. That's our way of explaining the feeling that we have when our stress response is overactive. We're talking about being overwhelmed. The stress response is the fight or flight response that occurs when we're startled, when we're frightened, or when we feel threatened. And most of us learned about the stress response in second grade. And I can remember seeing a picture of a caveman holding a lance battling a saber-toothed tiger, and our teacher saying, oh, he's having the fight or flight response. He either has to run or he has to battle his way out. Well, we still have that response. The thing is that researchers have found that the brain can't distinguish or differentiate the cause, the thing that will cause our stress response to start. And what that actually means is that our bodies respond the same regardless of the stimulus. Our bodies will respond the same regardless of the stimulus. So let me give you an example. Let's say that someone from Oprah Winfrey's organization calls you to set up a phone call with her. And this person tells you that Ms. Winfrey heard of your work and wants to talk to you about the possibility of working with her. You get this call and your heart starts to pound, right? And it starts to race and you get hot all over. All of a sudden, you have this warm feeling that starts from the top of your head and it just flows almost to the floor, covering your body. You also probably get a sinking feeling, a butterfly feeling in your stomach. You're shaky, and you can't hardly hold the phone. So you sit down because you're trying to hold the phone, and because all of a sudden you're dizzy and lightheaded. Then you notice that you can't think clearly. You can't even remember simple information about yourself. And you find that you're stammering, you're stuttering, you can't get your words out. These are all symptoms of stress, and they're all initiated because of the stress response. Now, the call from Ms. Winfrey's organization makes you happy. You're excited. Oh, my gosh, I'm going to get to work with Oprah. She called me. I can't believe it. You feel motivated to perform and to produce. You're ready. But let's say that you get a different type of call. Let's say you start getting calls from debt collectors or from a client with a complaint or numerous clients with a complaint. Instead of feeling excited and motivated, you'll probably feel angry, sad, frustrated, or disappointed. And you'll definitely feel overwhelmed. Physically, however, your body is going to respond the same way that it responded when you got the phone call from Ms. Winfrey's organization. Your heart's going to start pounding. It's going to race. You're going to feel hot all over. You're going to get that sinking butterfly feeling in your stomach. You're going to feel shaky. You'll probably feel lightheaded and dizzy. You're going to have trouble thinking. You can't remember things. And you're going to have difficulty talking. This, too, is a result of the stress response. The first call was a motivating call. You were excited. It was a great call. That is an example of good stress. The second call was an overwhelming, or the second calls were overwhelming. They were frustrating calls. They caused you to feel angry. That's an example of bad stress. So let's take this a little bit further. And I want you to look at your handout, the PDF that is a part of this session. I hope you all downloaded it. But let's look at this handout. This handout shows two axes. The horizontal axis, or the up and down axis, is labeled physical and mental performance, right? The higher you go on this particular axis, the greater the performance, the production, or the output. The vertical or left to right axis is labeled motivation, stress level. The further right you go on this axis, the greater the motivation or stress. So basically, when we have little motivation, we have little performance. And this is indicated by the point on the bell curve that's labeled bored. There's low performance because there's low motivation or stress. And this is when nothing is causing you. You have no motivation to get up and do things, right? You have no drive, nothing that's pushing you to get up and get out. If we go a little to the right as motivation increases, then we also see that performance increases. So you'll notice the label interest. And this is the general area where most people are. You know, they're engaged in their work, they're not overtaxed, and they're experiencing an adequate amount of motivation or stress that gets them up and moving every day. So this is where interest is where most of us are. Now, if we continue to move to the right to a moderate level of motivation or stress, this is where we hit our stride. And if you see at the very top of the bell curve, it's labeled excitement. We're excited about our work. We're performing at an optimal level, both mentally and physically. And this is basically our sweet spot. This is when everything is clicking on all cylinders. What this says is that we have adequate motivation to go to work on our businesses, to go to work, as well as to take care of our families. This is where things are really good. It doesn't say that we're not experiencing any difficulty, not at all. What it says is that whatever difficulties we're presented with, we have adequate skills and ability to meet the challenge. This is the place where most of us want to be, especially entrepreneurs. We want to be in the sweet spot where everything is working. We're able to take time with our family. We're able to meet our family's needs and wants, and we're able to meet the needs of our business and get to the goals that we've established for ourselves. This is the spot where we are ready to take that Oprah Winfrey phone call and not lose a step. That's where we want to be. So we know that that point is where the motivation or stress level is just right, because that's where we perform at an optimal level. Now, this section, the section from interest to excitement, that is the area that we consider to be good stress. That's the area where stress is, or the motivation is adequate for us to perform. We're motivated and able to manage all of our needs as well as our wants. Okay? So, what happens when motivation or stress increases from that point of excitement? What we see on the bell curve is that our performance begins to decrease. Our ability to perform and produce is strained as we begin to feel more and more stress. And as you see on the bell curve, as stress or motivation increases, we become anxious. We begin to be hypervigilant. We begin to worry. We start to fret about being able to meet those challenges that we're faced with, being able to manage our day-to-day lives. And then as stress or motivation increases to a high, we become extremely overwhelmed, and we start to experience episodes of fear and panic, and we may dive into a breakdown. Overwhelming stress contributes to both physical and mental breakdown. That is the bad stress. And if you see the dotted line there, the stress zone, that indicates what we consider to be bad stress. And basically what that means is the demands are too great for you to handle, both physically as well as mentally. It's overwhelming. One of the resources that I have available to you is called Get Through the Day Without Losing It. And it is a 7-day series of tips to prevent, intervene, and manage your stress level. And I want to invite you to take a look at it. And you can find it on the website at www.happyhalfhour.club. And when you go to the home page, just look on the right sidebar, and it's the first picture you'll see. Get through the day without losing it. You ready to do another activity? I am. This activity is going to help you to focus your attention on a particular sound. And I'd like to ask you to once again sit comfortably in your seat with your feet firmly planted on the ground or on the floor, and allow your arms and your hands just to fall naturally in your lap or on your side. And just breathe naturally. And you may bring your attention and your awareness to your breathing, just breathing in and out naturally. Don't have to take any deep breaths. Just allow the air to flow in and flow out, just naturally. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to play a sound. And when I play the sound, I'm going to ask you to listen to that sound from the beginning until the end. And when you can no longer hear it, just listen from the beginning to the end. Okay. What we learned from that particular activity is that we can focus our awareness and attention on a particular sound. And when we do so, we are able to block out some of the things that are going on around us, some of the stress-causing activities or some of the stress-causing discussions. And this is called mindful listening. Okay, so we have covered quite a bit. Let's recap just for a moment. We began by doing a mindful sit, and that was just basically sitting still and observing different parts of our body and noticing just the silence around us. We then did Have You Ever, where you were able to determine the amount of stress that you're experiencing by answering 7 yes or no questions. From there, we did a deep breathing exercise, and I hope you recall that deep breathing is one of the quickest and easiest ways to bring down your stress level and to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which also helps to calm you. From there, we talked about the differences between good and bad stress. Now, we're going to talk about the ways to limit and manage overwhelming stress. You ready for that? Okay, I am too. Let's talk about the ways to limit and manage overwhelming stress. We've learned that when you have a moderate level of motivation or stress, you function at an optimal level of performance. You have enough, you have the ability, the skills to meet whatever demands, both physically or mentally, that you might face. And what that looks like is when you have adequate stress or adequate motivation and you're able to meet those demands, you're creative. You can come up with ideas and develop those ideas and make them real. You're not just coming up with ideas and not able to think through it. You're able to think through it and create products and services for your clients or your constituency. You're a problem solver. You're able to develop solutions that work for you, for your family, for your business, as well as for those people who you serve, your customers. You're able to anticipate problems or concerns and develop plans to address those. And these are all ways that when you're functioning at that optimal level, These are the things that you're able to do. Also, you see that your relationships flourish. Not only your relationships at home or in the community, but your business relationships flourish. You're able to meet people and talk to them, and they want to be connected to you. You also build meaningful relationships. The other thing is you have positive feelings. You have positive feelings about yourself and about what you're doing. You have a positive outcome, which is so important because you're optimistic. You wake up expecting good things to happen. You wake up expecting things to work out to your benefit. Even as things are happening that are not the best, you are still optimistic that it's going to work out to your benefit. You also have a sense of well-being. You take care of yourself physically, meaning you're eating well, you're exercising, you are managing your stress level, which we're learning to do. You're also emotionally even. You're not up and down. You're not all over the place. You're emotionally even. So creative, problem solver, planning and anticipating. Relationships are flourishing. You have positive feelings and you're optimistic. You also take care of yourself. That is when you know that you're performing at an optimal level and that you have a moderate level of motivation. Now, when stress is overwhelming, the picture looks a little bit different. When you're overwhelmed with stress, your ability to function is hampered. And as we talked about, it could lead to a breakdown. You're constantly tired and fatigued. This is because you're not getting enough sleep. You're not able to go to sleep. You may fall asleep, but then you wake up at 1 or 2 o'clock and you can't go back to sleep. Or you might wake up early. Some people just have restless sleep. They go to sleep, they sleep through the night, but when they wake up, they're just as tired as they were before they went to bed. So you're constantly tired. We talked about being unable to think clearly, not able to make decisions, even about simple things. Somebody may come to you and say, hey, do you want some lunch? Yeah, I want some lunch. Okay, what do you want? I don't know. Even simple things, you may have difficulty making decisions. Your emotions are all over the place. Not only are they all over the place, they're inconsistent. You may be sad one minute, happy the other minute. You may be frustrated the one minute, but excited the other minute. So they're all over the place. And this, of course, affects your relationships because people don't know what to expect. They don't know how you're going to respond. You begin to anticipate the worst, and you fret. You worry. You become hypervigilant, as I've mentioned before, because you're so concerned that something bad is going to happen, and you're constantly worrying. And when you're at that state, that's when you are filled with anxiety. When you're hypervigilant, when you anticipate the worst, and when you're constantly fretting or worrying. Your relationships flounder when you're extremely overwhelmed with stress. As I mentioned before, people don't know what to expect. They don't know how you're going to respond or react, and they begin to avoid you. Also, you may begin to avoid other people because you just don't want to be bothered. You're tired, you're overwhelmed, and it's just too much. You may feel like you're stuck in a hole. And actually, you may actually feel like you can't get out, like you've been climbing, but the hole is too deep. That's when you know that you're overwhelmed with stress. So how do you get out of that? Stress relief and stress management actually fall, those actions fall into three categories: prevention, intervention, and maintenance. And I want to go through each category. Prevention is really, in my view, the foundation of stress relief and stress management. And there are three actions that I think are important for you to take in order to prevent stress from becoming overwhelming. Number one is to know who you are. First, understand your personality. Understand your personality, how you interact with people, places, and things. Then, understand how you deal with stressful situations. Having an understanding of your personality and knowing how you deal with stressful situations will help you to put in measures to prevent yourself from becoming overwhelmed. Also, accept what you're compelled to do. And I work with people to develop personal and professional mission statements. And I believe that your personal and mission statement and your professional mission statement need to complement each other. They need to be congruent. And by developing a congruent personal professional mission statement, you can relieve or prevent a lot of stress that would come from any the opposite forces. You won't have to choose between your family or your business because you've created a mission statement in which they are aligned. So, first thing in prevention, you need to know who you are. The second thing is be in control of your destiny. Gain the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities to help you reach your mission. And that's the purpose of sessions like this and LaShanda Henry's work, is to provide you with the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities to help you to reach your mission. Also, maintain a surplus. Now, let's face it, if you're in business for yourself and you have a bad month, that could affect everything, right? So it's important to have a surplus. Make sure you have 3 to 6 months of income, money in your bank, so that if you do have a bad month, you can still pay your mortgage or your rent. You can still meet your obligations. Also, have a surplus of other things. Now, I'm a stickler for having a surplus of toilet paper and paper towels because in my house, my family runs through it like I don't know what. I think I need to buy stock in it. But, okay, that's beside the point. But maintain a surplus. And surpluses they're not just in terms of money or items. Also, have a surplus of friends and supporters. Have people who will cheer you on and will help you, people that you can go to when you need it or before you need it. The other thing is strive for balance. Balance is so key, especially for entrepreneurs. We need to have balance. We cannot put our all into a business without having other things to counteract that. You don't want to spend 99% of your time in your business when you have your family. You want to balance it out. The third activity under prevention is to develop healthy, supportive relationships. And this is what I touched on in terms of having a surplus. You want to interact with people in a way that's validating for them as well as for you. And that helps to develop those supportive, healthy relationships. Also, you want to develop the skill of creating space so that you can respond appropriately instead of reacting immediately when you're faced with a stressor. Sometimes we react without thinking, which is part of the stress response, and we say or do things that we don't intend to. But if we gain the skills to enable ourselves to respond, to build that space so that we can think through and then respond, that will help us to keep stress at bay. The second area is intervention, and these are the actions that you can take when you're having a stressful moment. First of all, admit what you feel. Admit it to yourself. Feelings are based on everything, on actions, on our thoughts, on our others' behaviors, even on the past, our memories. And when we can acknowledge what we're feeling in that moment, and just to ourselves, the stress, our parasympathetic nervous system kicks in and it starts lowering the stress. Let me give you an example. Let's say that someone starts talking to you and pointing their finger at you, and you don't like it, but you start feeling like, oh, well, she's just treating me like my older sister used to treat me, and I hated it. If you can acknowledge that to yourself, that will help to relieve that tension immediately. The other thing you can do when you're in a stressful situation is to remove yourself from whatever is causing the stress. You can do that physically, and you can go outside. Get in a green space where there's trees or flowers or bushes. There have been some studies that have shown that stress levels are lower when we're in green space. So go out and get in some green space. From a mental standpoint, to remove yourself from a stressor, look at the situation or the stressor objectively as opposed to subjectively. When we're looking at a situation objectively, we're looking at the facts. When we look at a situation subjectively, we're looking at it, we're adding emotion to it. And as we know, emotions can cause our stress level to go up. So from a mental standpoint, to remove yourself from a stressor, look at the situation from an objective standpoint instead of a subjective standpoint. The other way to remove yourself from a stressor is from an emotional standpoint. And again, admit your feelings, and that will lower the flight or fight response. Now let's talk about maintenance. Maintenance, how do you maintain? Stress is at a low. How do you maintain that? First of all, exercise and stretching. Stretching relieves tension in the muscles, and exercise releases that pent-up energy. When the fight or flight response is initiated, our bodies immediately become stiff and rigid because we're getting ready for action. We're getting ready to move. So in order to release that, stretching helps and exercise helps. Also, you can eat for calm. You want to make sure that you're eating so that your blood sugar level stays steady. You're not having that up and down, not having a high blood sugar level and then it drops. You want to make sure it's steady. You want to make sure you're eating foods that are high in vitamin B, because vitamin B supports the nervous system and brain function. Also, it stimulates the production of serotonin, which is that feel-good hormone. It makes us feel good. We also want to eat foods, vegetables, that are high in antioxidants. That's vitamin A, vitamin C, and vitamin E, because they boost the immune system. When we're overwhelmed with stress, stress suppresses our immune system. So it is important to make sure you're eating foods, primarily vegetables, green vegetables, that are high in antioxidants. The other thing is, when we're stressed, our digestive system is suppressed as well. That's why we get those butterfly feelings and that funny feeling in our stomachs when we're overwhelmed. So we want to make sure we're eating fiber-rich foods, drinking plenty of water, and eating yogurt, because yogurt has probiotics. The third thing, is that the third thing? I'm not sure. The other thing we can do to eat for calm is to reduce our caffeine and alcohol intake. Now, I know that some of you all don't want to hear that you need to drink less coffee, but caffeine, if you lower your caffeine, lower the alcohol intake, that will also help you to stay calm and be stress-free. And my very, 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 very favorite recommendation is to sleep, 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 and sleep. We don't get enough sleep. And I am such a proponent of sleep because adults need between 8 and 9 hours of sleep, and the older we get, we may even need 10 hours of sleep. But I'm such a proponent of sleep that I've created 2 series of Sleep in 30 adult bedtime stories. And these bedtime stories are interactive in nature. They actually take you through light stretching, deep breathing, sensory awareness, and mindfulness activities to help you to fall asleep. So I'm going to invite you, to go to my website once again, www.happyhalfhour.club, and click the link that says Adult Bedtime Stories. It's in the top bar of my website. You can also find them at www.stressresources.happyhalfhour.club. Okay, I'm kind of losing my voice here, so let me take a drink of water. And let's do a recap. We've been talking about the vortex of crazy and how to break away from it. We've done some exercises to help us to feel grounded, as well as to do some quick relaxation on the fly. We did a mindfulness sit, we did deep breathing, and we did mindful listening. We also took a quick question and answer, have you ever, to find out where we are in terms of stress. We talked about the difference between good stress and bad stress. And what we learned is that when stress is at a medium level, we are at our optimal performance. We're excited about what we're doing, and we have the ability to meet all of the challenges that we're faced. We also learned how to limit and manage overwhelming stress. And it falls into 3 categories: prevention, intervention, and maintenance. And finally, we learned that sleep is very important. That's my favorite, as I said before. I hope this has been helpful for you. Take a look at www.happyhalfhour.club. You're going to find many more activities, tips, and techniques to make your day stress-free. I also want to invite you to contact me. On my website, I have a contact page. Please contact me, if you will, with any questions that you might have. I'd be glad to answer them. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at HappyN30. That's Happy, HAPPYIN, and the numeral 30. I'm Marcyline Bailey, your Power Circle expert today, and I want to thank you for listening to the Masterclass series brought to you by SisterSense.com.
Oh, my goodness. It's so wonderful to have an amazing Power Circle expert like Marcyline come on. As you can tell, she just shared a wealth of information with you ladies on all the things that you can do to, number one, identify whatever stress you're currently trying to work through, and number two, whether it's practical solutions you can do in your office, in the supermarket, at home, at work, or how you can navigate your day-to-days so that you can basically get out of the vortex of crazy, right, and get through the day without losing it. I am so thankful for Marcyline for coming on and sharing these strategies with you. I have all these notes here, writing down prevention versus intervention and things that you can do. It's definitely one of my components of recommendations is to make sure that you have some form of a cushion, right, so that you're not stressing out about your finances. If you're in a position to create a financial cushion, definitely do so. But for those of you who are not, now you're mindful of, right, with these prevention and intervention strategies that Marcyline has shared today, you're mindful of what you need to work towards, not just the generic or the general statements of I want to make 6 figures or I want to have a successful business, but I'm going to write down on my vision board, one of the first things that I'm going to do when my revenue is exactly where I want it to be is to have my 30 to 90-day financial cushion in place, so I know that whether I'm having a good month or a bad month, I'm covered. So I definitely love the range of strategies and recommendations Marcyline provided you today, because I know I said to you she was going to share with you how to get through the day without losing it and how to de-stress so that you can be happy. So hopefully you can see that she's lived up to everything and more, and not just that, but being in a position where she's able to share with you all that it's okay to say you're not okay. And just identifying for yourself when you're not feeling okay, and also identifying for yourself when whatever statement or message you're hearing, whether it be internal or external, reminds you of something that someone said or something that you felt several years ago, maybe something that happened in childhood. Just acknowledging those connections and those triggers, that in and of itself can help you to reduce the stress, right? So that you can reduce it, you can avoid saying things or doing things that you will later regret, and come from whatever it is that you're going through right now from a space of clarity. So, again, I just kind of wanted to put that out there because I was just so excited about everything that Marcyline was sharing, and the deep breathing exercises and listening to the audio, just kind of taking it in just as you were, and I wanted to share with you all some of the feedback and the notes and recommendations that I took in. So just two things, as I know Marcyline has so many things to do and clients to talk to, and I'm so excited because she's here sharing with you all what you need to do to start and get clear. Two things I wanted to remind you of. Number one, make sure that you print out the guide that is included with this masterclass so that you can walk through the recommendations that Marcyline has shared with you. And of course, she does have a stress assessment. So if you'd like to get an even deeper, closer look at where you are and what you're going through right now, Marcyline, if you could just share that URL for the stress assessment one more time for them.
Yes, it's www.systemschecklist.happyhalfhour.club.
Okay, perfection. So you want to make sure that you wrote that down. You go there. If you have any technical difficulties on happyhalfhour.club, of course, there's that contact page that you can check in with Marcyline and ask her if you have any questions. And then number two, she's also available not just for you on the website, but across social media platforms. One of my favorite Marcyline pieces of daily recommendations is her Morning Moments series. If you do not follow it, you need to. It's on Instagram underneath Happy in 30. So if you're not following, you want to make sure that you follow her along Happy in 30 so you can get Marcyline's wonderful morning moments and have a piece of strategy, a piece of this is what you need to do to get through the day without losing it from somebody who is qualified and in a position to share that with you. Now, before we go, one last thing. I just want you guys to know how qualified Marcyline is. I know that we spent so much talking about what you need to do, but Marcyline, if you could just share with them for 2 seconds exactly what it is that you do and how long you have been working in this particular industry.
I am a licensed clinical social worker, and as such, I have a private therapy practice in Southeast Georgia. I have been a clinical social worker for over 20 years, and I work primarily with individuals who are experiencing anxiety, stress, and depression. My clientele is made up of women, for the most part, and a few men.
And see, I wanted to make sure that we could add that in there. Over 20 years worth of information, because sometimes we feel like what we're going through, we can handle it, right? You know, usually when somebody says, how you doing? It's just kind of, it's politeness, you know, like status quo, how you doing? They don't really want you to dig in and dig deep and let them know all the craziness that's going on in your vortex. It's just kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to say how you doing and keep it moving, right? You want to know that it is okay to not be okay. You want to know that there are actually people out there, Marcyline specifically, who's available to you if you need somebody to help you figure out what you need to do. Because if you're not okay, and if you're going through stress, it's not okay to simply tell yourself, I can get through this. I can push through this. I'm just tired. You know, it just is the way it is, and this is how it's just going to be, right? There is better. There is happy on the other side, you know, that rainbow, that pot of gold. There is happiness there, which is why I'm so excited about everything that Marcyline has shared with you today and everything that she does on Happy in 30 to help other career professionals, entrepreneurs out there really get better at this thing called happy. Just as we love to see our children smile and beam and have that youthful, you know, without a care glow, we want to know that as adults we can have the same thing too. So thank you once again, Marcyline, for participating today. Ladies and gents, make sure that you stay connected with Marcyline as part of not just the Sister Sense Power Circle, as she's an amazing expert, but also as part of the Happy in 30 community. This is LaShanda Henry here, and as we wrap up this particular masterclass series, make sure that you again follow Marcyline and keep us posted on your progress. Go forth, create amazing, and we'll see you soon. Take care.